a Kangaroofern production.
It takes faith, a leap of faith to do that one. You just have to believe in yourself that you are capable of putting a message out there. You have a message to tell. So the microphone, the lights, if you're doing video podcast, the lights, the editing, and the marketing part, that's just a tiny portion of the whole equation. But the most important thing is if you have faith, then hopefully that should make you take action.
This podcast is produced and managed by Kangaroofern Media Lab, Australia's independent video and podcast company. We do the podcasting hard bits so you don't have to. We make podcasts easy. Book a call at www.kangaroofern.com.
Please welcome to the show Anne Christine Peña Redondo. Hello, and how are you today?
Hi, Miko. Thanks so much. You know, the people who get my full name right is a friend. So you're
Oh,
one of them.
well, thank you. Thank you
Because
so much.
it's hard to pronounce, and that has happened almost my lifetime. So anyone who pronounces it correctly is part of the network. How are you?
How are you today? Thank you so much,
I'm
Anne.
good. I'm good. Thank you so much for guesting me in your show, that podcast exchange. I'm excited to share what I know, if I do know something, to your listeners. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for that. And so let's start with how did you get from being a Facebook marketing strategist and why Facebook? There's a lot of social media. Why Facebook?
Yeah, thanks for that. I started when I started doing freelancing here in the Philippines. I used to get or have a grasp of all social media platforms, and during that time, we're talking of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. If you know Google Plus, if you're already alive by then, so it's that platform's already dead. But yeah, those five. I started as knowing all of those, but then again, a few years ago, I figured every single platform has its own um, algorithm to understand. Also, it caters to different audiences. So I told myself, you know what? I want to have peace of mind every time I sleep. So let's just focus on Facebook. I focus on Facebook primarily because it's the used to be actually top social media platform in the Philippines. So I figure, and also it until now it's still one of the best platforms out there if you really want to uh, do brand awareness, at least for your company or your brand. So, and also in personally, the longest I've been with in a social media platform is really Facebook. Like, I remembered a friend creating an account for me even if I didn't want to. This was during the time of Friendster and Multiply. It was like, no, because during that time I wasn't in those platforms. And then all of a sudden Facebook was in. This was, I think, 2009. And I told them that, no, don't put me on the web. But then again, that moment created something new for me because I learned a lot about Facebook. So yeah, personally, I've been on this platform for, I hope my math is correct. 19, 12, going 13 years. So those are the reasons why I stuck on Facebook. I'm stuck on Facebook.
Wow, that's a long time. Yeah, I remember Friendster. I used to go to Friendster and MySpace. Um,
I know the both windows, right? And in our office before, because I used to work for I used to do an 8 to 5 job, and everybody in their screens it's always those two windows. So I was like, what are those? It's like it's time wasters. Hello. Look where we are right now. So I really didn't want to. I really didn't want to be in those platforms before. But then when Facebook came, and then my friend said, "No, I'm gonna make you an account because everybody's there." Nah, so I really didn't want to. But then I think I gave myself 2 weeks, and I was like 10 steps ahead of everybody in terms of you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and the rest is history.
Great. Yeah. That's a long way from those platform now gone, and now we are on the Facebook now, which is I think a billion user now. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
think yeah,
So
yeah, a billion users. Hmm.
yeah, so wow. So we're talking about on I know you have a podcast as well, but we'll talk that later. Well, the next question I have is, say you are an early stage podcaster, want to create your own podcast. How is the social media can help, especially the Facebook?
That's a good question, Miko, because I know if here's the thing. Creating a podcast and launching it is another thing. Promoting it is another thing. So you don't forget the other you don't forget the other side of it, which is the marketing part. And that is where the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, will play a part. Because depending on the topic, depending on the show that you have, what you're talking about there, any social platform can help you um, market that show for free, right? Gone are the days wherein the only thing that you can do to promote anything, whether it's a brand or a company, is you send a 30-second commercial, and hopefully it's placed on television, or maybe probably a radio spot, or even newspaper ad. And as you know, all of those, wherever you are in the world, they're all expensive. But with social media, it allows you to promote your show, um, tell people about it through social media. So I've done I tried putting snippets of my show on my Facebook page, even on my personal account. I've also tried it via Instagram before, and then now on LinkedIn. So there's so many ways or tactics that you can do to promote your show on social media. The most important thing there, I think, is for free. It's and it's going to allow you to reach thousands, if not millions.
So you say thousand, if not millions. How?
Yeah, because you can do it via two ways. You can always do organic. When we say organic, you post something, and then probably you share it with your friends. You share it in your Facebook group or in your LinkedIn group, and just wait for it to come into fruition, right? In terms of likes, shares, and comments. The other way is through ads. So every platform right now has a has its own advertising platform. So if you have a budget for it, maybe probably $1 or $2 a day, you can promote your podcast using ads.
So you said using ads. Some of our listener and audience doesn't know about Facebook ads. Can you tell us some basic, say, Facebook advertising for a podcaster like me that doesn't know the algorithm, the Facebook? How would you promote your podcast via Facebook advertising?
The first thing that we you have to remember is that you throw all the algorithm in the air, like, because if you keep on thinking of the algorithms, you're just gonna bang your it's easier to bang your head on the wall, probably. So the most important thing that I can teach you about promoting your podcast through Facebook ads is that you just have to remember three things. Number one is your audience. Do you really know, or are you really sure that your audience is on a particular platform? Because obviously, if your podcast is for the youth, like we're talking of 18 to 18 and below, if you're talking to them, I don't think they're on Facebook. They are probably on Instagram, and right now they are on TikTok. So it's best to um, call their attention through your ads using those platforms. So the first one is audience. The second, you really have to get to know them. The second one, question to consider is, are they really in that platform? We mentioned it already a while ago. And then the third one is, what's your objective? Basically, why do you want to advertise your podcast on whatever social media platform you choose, or wherever your audience is? Do you want to for people to know that your show exists, or that's what we call brand awareness? Do you want people to uh, have conversations with a particular snippet of your podcast that you uploaded on your page? So that's engagement. Or how about if you want your audience to subscribe to your episodes in advance, ahead of the others. So there's this exclusivity part. So you could get email addresses for that one, and that's what we call leads. So there are many ways to not only to target your potential audience, but also there are many ways that you can advertise on whatever social media platform you are in. It's a matter of knowing who your audience is. Are you really sure they are there? And what's your goal? Because at the end of the day, if those three are like incomplete, or it's two out of three, or even if it's one out of three, um, it's not going to work anywhere.
Wow, that's a good explanation. Let's dissect this information that you.
I hope I can dissect that, 'cause I hated that in my biology class. Okay. Let's do
So okay, so the first one you said, it's you have to know your audience. So what is customer avatar?
uh, it's basically people say it's a representation of it's a person. It's a physical no, it's not a physical person, like it's a collection of a representation of who you want to talk to. So it's like you have friends, Miko, right? So but among those you have your really bestest friend. So if I ask you to describe to me your best friend, and you'd be able to describe him to me in terms of the physical appearance, and then how his level of intelligence, what are his likes and dislikes, what are his strengths and weaknesses, and some maybe probably since he's your best friend, you'd be able to tell me what were the things that makes him um, you know um wake up at night probably and think about those things. So that's a customer avatar. And for in marketing, the customer avatar is the person that you always consider in what you do, whether it's a marketing campaign or a new product that you're going to launch, or a new service, or probably a new podcast. The customer avatar is the person that you are going to think about and consider, because at the end of the day, he or she is the person that you're going to talk to. And it's not everyone, right?
So you're saying is having a clear customer avatar is important for your podcast or for your business.
Yes, yes. If you remember, Seth Godin is one of the brilliants in marketing, and he has always said that everyone is not your customer unless you are selling a mass product like a soap or a shampoo. But as you may have seen right now, whether you have started your podcast or not, every podcast has a particular category. So that means there is a particular person that they are talking to, right? So I remembered when I started my podcast, I really had to nail down who do I want to talk to, because um, entrepreneurs are so broad. It's a In terms of category, my show may fall on the business and then on the entrepreneur side. But then, if you think about it, those are still general terms, right? So when you bring it down on a more filtered level, if that's the right word, I clearly understood that I want to help business owners who are having a hard time doing Facebook marketing. So I was able to filter that down on that level already. And then probably we I am another example to filter it down further is that probably I'm probably I'm only serving Filipino business owners who are having a hard time doing Facebook marketing. So with that description, the customer avatar is more specific now, because that would mean if somebody who's so knowledgeable in Facebook marketing would listen to my podcast, I don't think they would stay until the end of the show. They could for out of curiosity, but I don't think they would listen to another episode, because they would always tell themselves, oh, I already know that one, right? So that's an example of how important a customer avatar is. It's important for podcasters, because if you think about it, you're creating a show not for a particular audience. You're not just talking just because you want to talk. That's so weird. You would want to talk to a particular set of audience that would resonate with you, that would understand what you're feeling. So as far as I know, that set of audience, it's not meant for everyone. So I hope I got that right for you.
So you based on your saying, it's gonna be you have to niche down. So niching
Yes.
down is important to
Yes.
capture the audience. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. It's not easy though. It's a long process, because there are times wherein you think you're already talking to the right audience, but then along the way, once you launch your podcast, you're gonna find out that, okay, maybe I really don't like talking to them. I want to talk to another set of audience, which is good. That me Because the most important thing there was that you started. Because if you haven't started, or if you haven't even launched the show, you wouldn't know. Because sometimes we are so quote unquote blinded with the things that we planned, right? So for instance, if you're launching your podcast, you really told yourself, yeah, I really am okay, I'm really serving this customer after, I'm so excited to talk to them. But then along the way, you realize that there's a better customer avatar that you're uh, resonating more with, but you were able to realize it because you started. So that's my thought on that one.
All right. Thank you for that. So let's go back to the Facebook marketing. A lot of people are confused between boosted and the normal ads. So, what is the differentiate of that? Which one is better if you want to promote your, say, your business or your podcast?
Well, one thing, both are taking your money. No, I'm kidding. So, uh, for boosted is for business owners or podcasters or marketers that want to, let's say, I think the right um phrase is, would like to get their feet wet. So it's for a start. As you know, I've had clients and even mentees that were so scared of doing ads on Facebook, and it's understandable. Facebook is a big brand. You're giving money to an entity, right? It's not, you're not giving money directly to Mark Zuckerberg, but you know what I mean, right? So for a start, if you don't know how to navigate your first few steps on Facebook advertising, boosted post is good because in a few clicks, um, Facebook would guide you on what to do next compared to the, I call it the normal, but nothing's both are okay. On the other hand, if you use the formal Facebook advertising, I think it's the best way to describe that. The other way of doing the Facebook advertising is that you're gonna go in a what we call ads manager, and there are so many things to click there. So if you're starting, you're gonna get lost. So my advice is always, when you're starting, boost post is okay, but once you get the hang of it, like you're not afraid to spend on advertising anymore, then it's best to do the other way of doing Facebook ads. That's the time wherein you're gonna go to the ads manager, click on click on some things there, and you're not gonna be uh, scared or overwhelmed anymore, because between the two ways, there are more features and options on the Facebook Ads Manager compared to Boost Post. So both are good, but for a start, if you're scared, Boost Post is okay. But once you're getting the hang of it, go to the Ads Manager, because there are business owners, there are marketers, and even podcasters who continue to use Boost Post even if they're doing it for like a year or so. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
So, to make it easy, just go to Boost if you are really wanted to do a Facebook ad. So, you go to the normal ads
Yeah, the
manager.
formal, yeah, yeah. So if you're still confused, you call me. I mean, get my contact from Miko. I can help you.
And we can set up the pixel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another story, by the way, which is confusing. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're talking about a few minutes ago, you mentioned email. As a podcaster, because you know what happened to Facebook couple of months ago, if you remember, I think they hack the Facebook was down, and then a lot of people are scared if you don't have any. What happened to your audience if they're all in the Facebook? Is email list is still a good way to do as well as an alternative aside from the social media?
That's a good one, Miko. And people might be surprised with what I'm going to say, because they might say that I'm supporting email, even if I know how Facebook, at least a bit of it. I know how Facebook works. At the end of the day, you are renting a place on Facebook or any other platform that's not yours, right? When you go inside Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, there are rules that you have to follow because it's a rented space. It's a rented real estate. So let's just say Mark Zuckerberg decides to retire tomorrow and takes down Facebook. You can't do anything about it. Like you can even fight with your government to do that one. You won't. I don't think everybody would win on that battle. With that being said, focus on the things that you can control. And one of them, as a marketer and as a business owner and as a podcaster, email, getting emails from your audience would is one of the things one of the ways that you can take control of your digital asset. Because whatever happens in on Facebook or any other platform, if you have the email address of your audience, you'd be able to communicate with them still. Be able to talk to them like, hey, how are you? Facebook's down. Has it? It's always been. Sometimes you just don't feel it, but then it happens. So also you mentioned about Meta right a while ago, right? So there are things right now on Facebook that kind of crazy, and sometimes I can't even imagine if I really want to still journey on that one. But if you're in a limbo, if you're thinking about it, um email um, would be an important part of your marketing um, assets, because wherever you are, you once you have the emails of your target audience, you can communicate with them. Because let's face it, email may be a dinosaur, but you can't open anything without your email, right? I've had Alan Ngo in my show Pin to Top talking about how important email marketing is still. No, it's not an alternative. It's actually it's best to partner your to include that in your marketing plan. As you promote your podcast, you get their emails. Or for instance, if you have a giveaway, let's say, you always get their email address, because at the end of the day you can always bring them back to your show. Like for instance, if you missed this episode, here's the link, right? Because also there are many factors that um your audience might not be able to check your latest episode. Algorithm is the answer to that one. So email is not an alternative. It's a good way. It's a good strategy to include in your marketing plan.
Thank you for that. So I know you also an author, and you publish a book of Small is Big, and
Yeah, and
also
the other one is skipping stones. Yeah.
yes, Stephen Tone. Let's go to your podcast. Give us an overview of your podcast and the advice you share during a typical episode, the Pin to Top podcast.
Okay, Pin to Top is for entrepreneurs and experts who would want to know about Facebook marketing. Because, like what I said a while ago, if you're overwhelmed, then you listen to the show. I create episodes about what's the latest on Facebook. What should you do when you do ads? What are the important elements on a Facebook page? And sometimes I do share personal experiences, like marketing insights, and also I also guest owners there. So it's basically the show is revolving around helping entrepreneurs and experts like you. If you're an author, you're an influencer, and you want to find out how to navigate Facebook without you getting overwhelmed and scared of it. So that's what the show is about. When I guess people on the show, it's the goal is not for everyone, including me, to learn from the business owner, because from there I'm able to understand um, why is this business owner um, what is the day in the life of a business owner that would make that by making him sit down and learn Facebook, it's already overwhelming for him, or like he basically doesn't have any time. So by getting in taking a portion of their mind, I'm able to understand better the audience that I am serving. So that's what the show is all about.
So, next question I have for you about your podcast. What are the two or three of the biggest, say, impact in your business because of the podcast?
It's weird because, well, for one, it's for authority, right? So if you want to be known as a thought leader in the industry you'd like to be known for, known at, then podcast is a good way of um, putting yourself out there. So in terms of credibility, having a show is a good way to increase that level of credibility. The second one is actually just being able to share what you know, because I'm a blabberish person, and I can talk all day about anything and everything under the sun. The podcast allows me to share what I know, not just keep it to myself. And the third one is um, every time I put a guest on the show, I'm also a student myself. If you've heard my show, every time there is a guest on my show, I would always tell them that I've learned a lot. I never want to publish the show. So like I'd like to keep it to myself. So that's how it is, because I am every time there's a guest on the show, I'm always putting myself as the student, just asking questions. It's like, to me, it's the show has been a business school full of sorts, because I've never gone to business school. I took up communication in college, so we didn't talk about business management and marketing. Well, we talked about advertising during that time, but it's just a small picture of, and in public relations, and but this just a small portion of marketing, right? So those are the three things. It's actually the fun part, the only fun part that I could always tell you is that every time somebody says, I'm listening to your show, so that would be like, oh my God, really? You're listening to my show? Because I thought I'm the only one listening to my show. So, and my friends. So that's a fun part. And though that thing doesn't come along much, because there are there are there are audiences that are just silent listeners. They're not gonna tell you every now and then that I listen to your show and you mentioned this. So that's good. That's a good feeling, and good to know. It inspires you to go on, because sometimes if you're just talking with only the microphone, there's a big probability that a thought would come to your mind. Thoughts such as, maybe I am just crazy doing this. I'll just have to stop. Those thoughts. And as a bonus, I think Miko, which is still surprising to me, a few um, podcast list um, published on the internet. They already included Pin to Top, and it's under the category of Facebook or advertising. So until now, I'm surprised on that one, because I'm not only talking about Facebook ads on the show. I'm talking of Facebook marketing as a whole. And if I talk to the guest on my show, we don't talk about Facebook marketing per se. We're talking about how they started their business, where they are right now, where they want their business to go. So those few accolades, it's in Filipino we call it nakakakilig, right? But it's a fun it gives you the good feeling as well that okay, I have to do this right because those, I'm already on those lists. So that's fun. That's fun.
Thank you for that. So yeah, I love listening to your podcast. That's why I'm listening to your podcast. It's almost 100 plus. One thing I love on your podcast, I think I've been listening for different podcasts, is at the end of your podcast you do a prayer. That's one of the uniqueness of your podcast, because some of the podcast doesn't have that. So yeah, so every time
Thanks for that. Because, well, one thing, thank you for letting me know that you're listening to my show because I really thought I'm the only one listening to the show aside from Value Pod because they're editing my stuff. So Value Pod Productions is my production podcast production. And this the thanks for letting me know that the prayer is the unique part of the show because it was a struggle at first. And I hope your listeners that are contemplating on starting a podcast would be able to get like a few nuggets on this one. Because when I was planning the show back in 2019. I was telling myself, should I include a prayer in this show? Because you don't when you are inside when you're talking to your marketing team, whether you're a big company or you're a one-man show because you're a digital creator. You I don't know what's happening on your I don't know what's happening on your day, but um to me prayer has been an important part of my life. So during the time when I was planning the show, it was a struggle to include that versus not including that, because at the end of the day people might say, why they're putting some spiritual um aspect on anything that you do. Sometimes they are alienating people. So it really took me a while to think about that. But then I told myself, well, number one, this is my show. Like I can do anything on my show. Why would I not include that one? So if I would alienate people, then fine with me. Like I cannot control um if they're going to listen to the full show, or like once the prayer is in they stop, they click on the next episode. I hope they don't do that. So it was a struggle, but at the end of the day I told myself, this is my show. This is the identity of the show. And at the end of the day, you can't the person that does the marketing on your business, or the business owner itself who runs the business, at the end of the day, that's a person that is relying on something that is higher than him or her. So I said, I don't care, let's put it there. So until now it's there.
yes, very well noted. Thank you for that. And so my last question before we wrap up the podcast is, if you have a billboard to write one short piece of advice to all our listeners and who's watching this right now, what would you say to them?
Oh God. You know that you know what? You emailed me about this and I was like, oh my God, this is a very hard question. Because there's no such thing as one short piece of advice. I think for it, in every chance that we're going to meet each other, I hope to meet you personally, Miko. So you have to fly here. So once pandemic is over, there's no such thing as one short piece of advice, because along the way you're gonna learn things about life. And at that one particular moment, if you're going to meet someone, there's going to be a piece of advice that you're going to say to that person. And then in another event, there's a new person or probably the same person that you'll have a chance to meet again. It's another short piece of advice. So for this particular moment and in this episode, I think the short piece of advice that I'd like to give your audience is that just have faith. Everything in my life is about having faith and not having it. So it's a struggle. So I know that your listeners are listening to you because they are inspired by what you do. I know it's not easy to produce podcasts, but you are here every single time. So they want to be on that side of the mountain, right? Like I want to be Miko. I want to be able to launch my podcast and really get going on this one no matter what happens. And that no matter what happens, that included, that has to have faith. Because there, like what I said a while ago, there will be times wherein you will feel like you're you're the only one that's making this show important, and that no one is listening, or there are already other podcasters out there who's talking about what I want to talk about. It's not going to make any sense if I add myself to that roster. And so many imposter syndrome symptoms you're gonna experience. So it takes faith, a leap of faith, to do that one. You just have to believe in yourself that you are capable of putting a message out there. You have a message to tell. So the microphone, the lights, if you're doing video podcast, the lights, the editing, and the marketing part, that's just a tiny portion of the whole equation. But the most important thing is, if you have faith, then hopefully that should make you take action. That's it.
Thank you so much for that. So, where can our people or audience get in touch with you for more information if they want to have a chat with you?
All right, thanks for that. AnnChristine.com is my website. The latest episodes of Pinto Top is also there. Also, Pinto Top is you can listen to it on Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, and other podcast directories that you'd love listening to podcasts to. You may email me at pintotop@annChristine.com if you want to ask questions about a recent episode that I just did, or if you want to just say your feedback, or if you want me to talk about a topic on the show, just let me know. It's pentotop@annChristine.com. Facebook page is AnnChristine, social media marketing strategist. I'm also on LinkedIn. I blabber in both platforms, so you can catch me on those social media. Thanks, Miko.
Thank you so much. And Ayan, so just check LinkedIn, Facebook, and if you have any question, just have a chat with Anne, and she is happy to talk to you. All right, so it's another episode of That Podcast Has Changed. Thank you so much. See you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.
Are you ready to finally start your own podcast? Maybe you already have one, but need a podcast manager to help you level up. We're here for either. Book a call at www.kangaroofern.com, www.kangaroofern.com,